oh, that's like a fucking great option. I wish I could just, I wish I could find a relationship really easy. But I was not the catch I am now back then.
Yeah.
I,
Very different then.
I
Very
was,
different.
we were saying this the other day. I do see that picture that I put up yesterday of me. I mean, I was 21 then as well. That was me at 21, like, and people are like, "Oh my god, look at how small you were." You know,
I know. When
I
you used to jump out the windows, you wouldn't drop. You would just kind of float.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Like, so that was never an option for me. Like, I was not known for, being like in any kind of relationship at any given point. Whereas, like, I don't know, for females, it always seemed a bit easier. But I think that left some of you open to some pretty shabby relationships. Like, do you know what I mean? So
I think for myself, because I was quite bolshy and quite brash, I think people probably thought that I was better than I was. I was doing better than I was. Do you know what I mean? I was handling it better. But I think a lot of people probably then, I've made a lot of bad relationships, and I think it's probably because you're searching for some protection.
Yeah, because you're vulnerable. Do you know what I mean? That's why. Because, like, I don't know. So, like, just for anybody watching, like, we actually, obviously, they've probably worked out, we know each other quite well. And, like, when I talk about Cypher, the homeless hostel that I live at in Slough, you were a resident there as well. I was there the other day.
That's mad.
If those walls could talk. But do you know what I mean? That's how we know each other. But it wasn't just in Cypher, once we all got kicked out of Cypher, we all ended up in Manor Park. There was a little group of us, and we were friends, weren't we? We were mates.
We were buds. We looked out for each other, yeah.
Yeah, we did. But me and you, I was explaining to the report from the BBC documentary that I'm going to be in. Radio. No, but I was explaining, because as we walked along, just up the top of the street from Cypher and over the fence and across the road, it's closed down now.
I know what you're going to say, yeah.
The Gala Bingo. Gala Bingo. I was explaining, I was like, I was like, me and Heidi used to, like, be up at, like, 5 a.m. and we'd go and steal all their bread and everything. And she was like, that's proper, like, Dickensian stuff. Like, do you know what I mean? Peasants out stealing bread.
We were terrible. That's how we ate.
That's how we ate, like, stealing Gala Bingo's bread and milk. Occasionally you get an orange juice, hit the jackpot.
Oh,
yeah. I mean?
God, that was a good day. That was a good day.
But no, so we were friends and we lived in Cypher for a year. And then, well, I don't know, was it a year or so? I find the timeline really hard to, like...
I mean, throughout my life, the timeline of everything is really hard. It's all kind of mushed into one. I don't know whether the brain's trying to get rid of it.
No, it's not just you. It's not just you. No, it's chaotic. It's because it was so chaotic. But I know that we were in Cypher together, and then we were in Manor Park together in that shared house. Which wasn't the safest environment we've been in.
Do you remember we had the rave? And it all went horribly wrong, and we had to lock ourselves in that back room?
I was in prison. I missed loads. There was that, and there was that, and there was a point where a couple of like one of the other guys that we hung around with, I remember they got sort of kidnapped and burnt, like, at a stove and stuff. Do you remember? It was they got kidnapped by some people because of drug money and stuff, and, like, got held to a burning stove and stuff, like. And I missed all that because I was in prison. So I was lucky.
Yeah, you didn't miss the good bits. You didn't miss anything good.
I was safe and sound in Reading, along with all the other Slough boys. So, do you know what I mean? And Reading, I've always said, like, Reading, there was nothing bad. Well, I mean, it was an inconvenience, but being in Reading, if you're from Slough, even as skinny and small as I was, it was no drama at all being in Reading. Felt them, different story. Felt them.
Oh, yeah.
We knew who you were anyway, the little group of us, and we used to sort of say hello to you because you worked in that hairdresser's on the corner of Slough High Street, and we walked past every day on the way to the Queensmere, and obviously we would look in, and people that saw each other all the time would give the nod. We'd all limp past like we were cool. Yeah. And then from there, you just turned up in Cypher one day, and I've never really known how. I've never really known why, like, what happened and how you got there. So tell me that, please.
I kind of rebelled. I just like a lot of teenagers do, but I like everything I do just go a bit too far with it. And yeah, my parents are kind of a bit middle class, I guess, and just did not bring me up to be the car thief and the drug taking that I was doing. They were at their wits' end and they just had enough and said, "See you later, out you go."
So did you blame them for that?
For a long time, yeah. For a long time, yeah. And I think that, but then I look at them now and I think they were actually younger than I am now when they kicked me
Yeah.
out. So it kind of like you kind of reflect on your life and you think, actually, I was wild. I was getting arrested like weekly. I was all up to all sorts of shit. And oh, sorry. And I was
Swear?
just
No, we swear.
oh, we can swear. Oh, that's cool. Oh, fuck it then.
Yeah.
And they were at their wits, but I don't blame them. No, I did for a long time, but I don't. No, I don't now. My birth dad, I didn't really know growing up, and I think that was a case of why I rebelled as well. To be fair, I didn't really know him as I was growing up, and I always called I never called my dad stepdad. I never ever called him that because he brought me up from a very young age. So yeah, I think there was a bit of that in there as well. Um, yeah, I think there definitely was a bit of that in there. That's a reason why I was rebelling, but I didn't have the words to speak about it, or maybe I was just too worried about speaking about it, which seems crazy because I was okay with doing all the other stuff I was doing, but I wasn't okay to ask a question about something from my past. It's
Yeah.
really strange, you know,
You
really
were, you
strange.
were, you were wild. Like.
Yeah, wild,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
right into my 30s, still wild.
Yeah, no, I calmed down, but I remember back then, like, you and me were quite, like, we got on because we were quite fucking wild.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were always, I think looking back now, we were quite similar. Like, do you know what I mean? And like,
Yeah.
like, as in, we both found a lot of things funny as well. Do you know what I mean? Even though it was all, like, chaos. Like,
Yeah.
I was always known for being quite funny. I was talking to a friend yesterday and she was like, yeah, well, he's quite funny. And I thought, yeah, that's a constant theme. I've always been sort of a laugh. Do you know what I mean? Even in the very worst situation, I was
Yeah.
finding ways.
Yeah.
I was always messing about, even back then when it was really like, do you know what? I think you were the same in that, like, we found fun in very dark situations.
Yeah. And even laughing at things that you shouldn't laugh at. Like I can remember just laughing at someone getting stabbed in the foot with a garden fork and finding it hilarious. Like that's not funny. That's awful. Why would you laugh at that?
Yeah, well, yeah, yeah.
Just
I,
yeah.
wa- I was quite horrible to some people back then as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like, yeah,
Yeah.
I think there was as much as we found fun. We did used to laugh at some cool stuff, and I was quite cool to people. Like I've reached out to a couple of people. One person in particular.
Yeah, I remember you said this. Yeah.
Yeah, and like reached out and really just said that I've got to say sorry. Like, do you know what I mean? So I'm just not that person anymore. But there was a couple of things that I did back then were terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Oh, you'd be horrified now. As a parent, you'd be horrified, wouldn't you?
Oh yeah, yeah. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And you were quite like scrappy as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's why we've always got on, Heidi.
I think there was a few times where we had a few
Yeah. Yeah. So right, anyway, yeah. So your mum and dad kicked you out because you were too wild, and then you ended
Yeah.
up. Was it through your college that you ended up in Cypher?
Yeah, I went into college and was just like, oh, I've been kicked out, got nowhere to live. So they, student services actually, that literally sorted it out that morning, and I moved in that afternoon. It was that quick. In
To Cypher.
to Cypher. Yeah, and it was like wild because I'd never seen. I mean, like you say, I was a bit scrappy myself, but I'd never seen anything like that. Like, so I walked in and they went to show me around, and there was someone like throwing knives at the wall. You know, the person who used to juggle. He was throwing
Uh,
knives at the wall, and I was like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna die in this place."
him juggling. Obviously Ashley was off his head back then. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I was this skinny little crackhead looking thing. Now that I look back, I realise just how cracky I must have looked.
Oh, mate.
Teeth all over the place, like 7.5 stone. Do you know what I mean? Just wiry, like. Yeah. So first impressions. What, scary or
first impressions? That night, I pushed my bed against the door. My first night in there, I pushed my bed against the door. I remember my friend left. She come and looked round with me, and then they gave you like your little bedding and stuff, didn't they? And I remember going up to the room, and I literally pushed my bed against the door. I was frightened that first night.
Yeah.
I don't think I slept the first night. But I was all right after that.
I was just saying, I don't remember you ever not being part of the sort of core, like the core group of people that live there.
I'm very good at fitting in and just kind of adapting to a situation. You know?
and then we proceeded to. I don't know, like, do you know what? It's people don't understand the trap that you fall in, because we've talked about like when we've spoke about it, that really was a sort of stereotypical trap of that kind of environment that you can get. Like we were talking about it, so our housing benefit would get paid, but I remember that I spoke to Ashley about this as well, who went on to become the manager. I know you and her aren't like close, but I get on with her. But I spoke to Ashley about it, and obviously she was sort of defending not herself because she knew it wasn't aimed at her, but she was sort of defending the system that I was having a go at. But even she had to say, the full rent there at that time was, I think the full rent was close to £80 a week, but this was at a time when you could only, if you were only getting paid like £3 an hour, £3.50 an hour, you'd be lucky to take home like 120 quid a week. Do you know what I mean? So then you're paying full rent, and you've got to get to work, and you've got to feed yourself every day. So that it wasn't an option. And we used to get our gyro, and we used to have to give the money out of our gyro, I think like 15 quid, and then they would give us £5?
£5.
Was it £5 a week?
£5 Iceland voucher, yeah.
A £5 Iceland voucher a week.
Yeah.
We all used to go to Iceland together.
Yeah, and spend it on shit. Spend it on donuts.
Absolute crap.
On donuts, eat the lot, sugar rush. Hey, that was it. Starve for the rest of the week.
And then the rest of the money we would just spend on drugs. And people go, listen, you spend money on drugs as well.
Yeah, just anything that would make your life a little bit bearable at that point.
Yeah, we liked weed, and we liked speed.
Yeah. Oh, could you imagine? Oh.
Such a minging drug.
It's so sweaty, isn't it? It's disgusting.
Dirty, horrible thing. And we take it for like days on end.
Just like our eyes must have been hanging out of our heads. Literally.
Well, I mean, I used to look back and, I can't imagine, actually, I think if we saw pictures of ourselves now then, we'd probably realise...
There was camera phones then.
I bet we looked really ropey, to the outside world. I bet we looked far ropier than what we thought. Even though I used to think I looked cool sometimes, do you know what I mean? It's only now that I'm like, probably never once looked cool in that entire period of time.
I know.
And then, so like, I don't know what you remember about Slough. I remember how crazy it was. I was there the other day, and I've got my memories of jumping out windows and up and down drain pipes, and the police being there all the time and stuff. And I don't know what you remember. I don't know.
Just the same, just pure chaos. I mean, but then, see, I know you've kind of made your peace with it and all the rest of it, but for me, myself, working with children that you have to safeguard on a daily basis, we were vulnerable kids. We were kids, little, children that should have been properly supervised, properly looked after, properly counselled. I think everyone there needed counselling. Everyone there needed help, and nobody received any of that. I didn't even have apparently I had a key worker, but I literally didn't have one meeting with them. Not one.
I don't remember. Yeah, so not just that, but I was, we used to, I was 17, and because I'd been in care, technically by law, I should have been getting a lot of help, a lot of
Oh
support. I should
God,
have had a
yeah,
social worker. I
absolutely,
should have
yeah,
had a social worker. I should never have been allowed to sleep rough once I got kicked out of Cypher. That, and I remember we used to go to those agencies, and they used to just brush us off, like, do you know what I mean? And just they'd fob us off and say, oh, well, it doesn't really count once you're like over 17. It's like, well, it's law. The at-risk list is from 16 to 18. And they would say, oh, yeah, but once you get to like 17 and a half, it doesn't really count. They couldn't do that now because we've got camera phones. Do you know what I mean? I would film.
yeah, yeah.
And also the other thing is, we didn't have the confidence, like, like now you've seen me, I'm a pure carrot. Do you know what I mean? If someone tries to pop me off, I'm like, I don't think so.
he's going into barrister mode.
Let me get out the legislation. Allow me to read this to you. Do you know what I mean? I'm a pure carrot.
But I think everyone's got more information. Everyone has got more access to information now. You can Google it. You can see your rights. But then we had nothing. What did we have? The yellow pages. We had to go off of people's word.
And emotionally, it's like what you were saying. I mean, I used to just lose my shit all the time, like just end up screaming and shouting at people. Like,
we were angry, weren't we? We were angry. We were angry with our lives, our situations, and no matter how much we tried to mask it with drugs and just messing about, at the end of the day, we were kids that needed counselling. We needed guidance.
That was a terrible, terrible period of my life.
You whack all them kids together with no rules. No, not that anyone listened to any of the rules, but it was so lackluster, and you're putting all these kids together. We're egging each other on, and it's a recipe for disaster. I'd love to know if it's changed now. I'd love to know if those kind of places have changed now.
I don't know. Like, so I've recently worked at a hostel that I used to live at. So a foyer, because there's a foyer in Slough. Because I lived at the foyer in Slough briefly as well. I lived there for a bit. And that was the same sort. It wasn't as bad. There was a bit more structure, but it was the same premise. In that I'm really against hostels in general because they're what you just said. It's just throwing a group of damaged people that need a lot more support than what they're getting into a building together. And sink or swim. And you'll remember, Cypher. It's a scary environment. You've got to be tough to get through. You've got to be on your, like the horrible things that I did to some people were probably as much about trying to prove to everybody not to mess around with me because I was scared. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
because actually, I looked about 13 years old.
Yeah, well, that's exactly it. You learn to put on this front, don't you? So that people don't mess with you. Act a bit mad, and then they don't mess with you so much.
Oh, it was all the front. Do you know what I mean? It was all the front.
Me too.
I was speaking to Ashley about it. I know we'll ignore that, but I was speaking to Ashley about it, and she was saying there were points after I left. She was saying there was a point where we were looking at you coming round, and we were really concerned because you looked ill. You looked mentally unwell. You looked physically unwell. And it's like, well,
what did they do? What did they do then?
Because I was physically and mentally unwell because I was homeless.
Yeah.
And I was 17. Do you know what I mean?
The word duty of care. That is what is drummed into you nowadays. Duty of care.
Back to now, I worked at a hostel recently, and there was, a bit more support. Well, do you know what? In fact, no, I'm going to say what pissed me off about that place and why I left is because it was just admin, and it felt like the support was actually right. Okay, if we see something bad, we put a safeguarding report in and hand it over to a different agency. And it just seemed like it was right. Let's just make sure we ticked every box to say that to not get sued. Do you know what I mean? And then on top of that, it was back to that whole rent situation where the full rent to live at that homeless hostel for a room with a shower in, the full rent was £1,500 a month. So do you know what I mean? And then the argument was, well, yeah, it's supported accommodation, so it's that much money because it's paying for the support. And I was like, well, what's the support? Yeah. And the support was the staff wages, so it's paying for the staff wages. And I'm like, well, that's not support, is it? And then there was my man Andre was there. And he'd been living there for 4 years, like, and it's like, well,
wow,
you've been getting £1,500 a month for somebody They shouldn't be here after 4 years. Just give them 1,000 fucking $5.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Does it help with any training for him? Does it help?
No,
Nothing. No.
and that was my point, because I just come out the armed forces, right? And like, well, you were wild until your 30s, and I wasn't much different. I sort of careered into the bloody armed forces, like just gone 32 years old, still not really that settled. And then as soon as I passed out my training, they got me my driving license. Do you know what I mean? And I was like, oh, cheers. And as soon as they got me my driving license, I was like, why didn't someone just do this when I was younger?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
you know what I mean?
Look at it. It opens up the world to you, doesn't it? As soon as you got that driving license, there's lots of jobs that require a driving license.
And just little things like that, driving license. Let's make sure that, for that money that they were getting in Cypher, why weren't they just putting on like 3 healthy meals a day? Like what you said, supplying and counselling. Do you know what I mean? Just making sure, why wasn't there a gym there? Things like that. I look at because the money was there. The money was there to do that. Do you know what I mean?
But they were just all they were too busy sat in the office chatting to each other and drinking coffee all day, feet up on desk.
Do you remember our drug dealer got a job there? She managed to get a job at the very place where she was selling drugs and stuff, and it was like,
that's just mental, isn't it?
And at the time we were like, this is amazing.
We've got to leave the house now.
now I look back and think, I felt sorry for the I felt a bit sorry for the bloody. There were a couple of people that were living there that just they weren't cut out for that. Do you know what I mean? And, they did get bullied, and they, it was sink or swim, and they sunk because it was too much for them. It was far too much of an aggressive environment.
Definitely,
for people that couldn't put on a front, and even just pretend.
Some people can't do that, can they? And they just it's really close then. I know which ones you mean as well, and I feel bad for them.
Yeah, because that can't have been a nice environment to be around.
No.
But hey ho, right? So I got kicked out of Cypher pretty quickly. We worked out. I was only there for a couple of months before they kicked me out. I can't remember what I kicked out for. Well, I got kicked out of Cypher, and then I still lived there for like a year in your room.
Yeah.
I think you were seeing Shane. Do you remember?
Yeah. Oh God.
So you were in. You were in different rooms. So I'd sleep in like your room. Do you know what I mean? And other people would let me sleep in their room. And I was there for like a year. And then I don't know what happened. In fact, I do know what happened. I got sent to prison for a few weeks. So I got remanded at Reading. And when I came out, everyone had left Cypher. And I think you was on
the run. Yeah, you was on the run for ages, for about a year in there, weren't you?
Yeah, I was on the run for close to a year, where I was just, and even that, like, so on the run, meaning that I wasn't getting any benefits at all. I was just living off other people and stealing and sleeping in Cypher. And then eventually I handed myself in.
Yes, with a book. You got fed up jumping out of windows.
Yeah, I just got fed. I just thought, I should probably just hand myself in. It'd probably be a bit easier. And I remember I got past Christmas. I had Christmas at a friend's house, and then literally, I think it was like January the 2nd, I turned up at the police station with like a book and whatever. I just said, right, I'm here. And then I got remanded for a few weeks. I think I got a sentence of like 3 months or something. And then when I came out, everybody had gone, and I was like, and this wasn't this was pre mobile phone days and pre internet. And I was like, who the fuck is everyone?
Yeah, so we all got evicted with 48 hours notice. 48 hours notice now, as an adult, would be a life-changing struggle. Do you know what I mean? I know we don't mind moving, but 48 hours notice to get kicked out, for people that have already been kicked out and are there, it doesn't sit well with me.
They gave the tenancies out that they gave out so that they could do that. Specifically, those tenancies were designed specifically,
but with there was no. I hadn't had any previous warnings. I hadn't had any previous, chats with someone like, if you carry on like this, you're going to be kicked out. Nothing. It just literally come to the office, went in, you're evicted in 48 hours.
Everyone.
And we had to sleep rough.
I think they just got In fact, I don't know whether I was there. I don't know, because I know that we all slept at one point. I think I did find you. We were all sleeping in the tower block in Charvy, you know, the tower block in Charvy next to the police, and we were sleeping in the hallways, like loads of us, just in freezing cold and stuff. And then I remember like we'd all be piled into a room down in Charvy.
The room,
yeah, there was someone had a room. I'm not sure who it was, but someone had a room, and we would all just be in there, high as a kite. And then somehow, we all ended up in a house in Manor Park.
Yeah.
And that was, again, just, I wrote here, were we still homeless when we were living in that house in Manor Park?
It was a proper tenancy.
Yeah, but like in your mind, were we still homeless when because I still consider myself homeless when we were in that fucking place. I don't think I was an official tenant anyway. But
no, it was me. It was me, Andy, and Ashley. I think were the official tenants. It was the three of us that were the official tenants, and then everyone stayed there anyway.
Yeah, not just me, but like half of Manor Park was in there.
Yeah, everyone was in there.
that was not a safe environment.
No, it really wasn't. I think Cypher was actually probably safer than that.
Yeah, no, Cypher was safer than that because I mean that was there was every character, if you like, from that area, which was a pretty fucking ropey area anyway.
Yeah.
And it was almost like not a glass house, but like it was a sort of headquarters, wasn't it? It became like a headquarters.
It was like for
a lot
badness.
Of criminal activity. So and then I left there. Where did I go? I think I disappeared. I think I sacked it off and went back up to Newcastle. And then I never heard from you again until I was in the Navy. So I was like, you fill me in with absolutely everything because obviously I know that. Yeah, do you know what? I heard this really random rumor like about 6-7 years later that you've been killed and stuff. I was really sad.
No way.
I'd heard that you've been killed. I was really like,
nearly. Nearly a few times. Lots of people have tried, but I'm still here.
Yeah.
I'm still here.
Still going. Don't know why.
I went home. I went home again briefly.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
Very, very briefly. And then moved on to a gypsy site.
Yeah.
For 7 years.
7 years.
7 years, yeah.
How was that relationship, Heidi?
That was. I mean, I did some good shopping at Harrods. I got. It was. Do you know what? In all honesty, I loved living on the gypsy site. I loved it. It was the best days and it was the worst days, all enrolled into one. Everyone was lovely there.
But you're not a gypsy, so
no.
Were you welcome?
I was welcomed with open arms, actually.
Yeah.
Which was for our generation. For the younger generations now, I think it's quite the norm. But for our generation, it was like, it was kind of unheard of a bit.
Yeah, back then, gypsies kind of they kept themselves to themselves, to be honest.
Yeah, and the ones that were with non-travellers tended to live in houses.
Yeah.
But, yeah, for like a non-gypsy girl to live on a site was like, I don't believe I knew another one, anyone else who lived on there, on any of the neighbouring sites even that wasn't a travelling girl. But yeah, 7 years.
7 years.
Yeah, 7 years. The people were lovely. My neighbours were amazing. My next door neighbours were amazing. But yeah, the guy was a nut job.
It doesn't. You meeting a nut job? I don't.
No, he was nuts. He was nuts. But do you know what? When I look back on it now, I think, oh my God, like how did I survive some of those things? But at the time, I just kind of thought it was normal, and I never see myself as like a beaten woman because I'd fight back, or I'd try and run him over or reverse over him. It was completely toxic. It was, we were so bad for each other. I think we just literally, I wound him up because I'm not your typical kind of, I suppose I suppose he was used to maybe traveller girls are a bit more amenable to their men. and don't kind of get in their face and threaten to punch them. So I think that I was just too much for him.
Yeah. And then
I'm trying to be really diplomatic because I actually know his wife now, and she's really lovely, and I don't want her to think, oh, but to be fair, she knows that all of this stuff anyway. So
yeah, and who's to say that he's like that now? Do you know what I mean?
No.
Completely different relationship.
Yeah,
you know?
different relationship. Yeah.
Yeah, and then
It's me. I think it's me. I think I just bring out the hatred in people.
right, and then you left. What happened?
And then I left. So I left because it got really bad. I mean, the last year was so bad that some bad stuff happened. So I couldn't. I needed to just go. So I just literally got on a plane and went. I went to the airport and I was like, my friend dropped me off at the airport. I had to steal my car to pay for it, and it was really. I had to literally steal my own car off the site to pay for running away, and I managed to do that. And then my friend drove me to the airport, and I literally was like, right, first plane out of it, and it was Tenerife, so off I went. I sold my car. I got not a lot of money for it because not as much as I'd hoped for it. I think I got about £500-600 for it, and I literally booked into a hotel for 2 weeks, and then went out, as you do, just went out drinking that night. Hey, met loads of people that lived out there, and managed to like get a flat share with loads of girls. There were four of us all together in this 1-bedroom apartment, but it was good because 2 of the girls worked days and 2 worked nights, so we just did that with a bedroom. I started off doing a bit of bar work, and then was just like, oh, do you know what? I want more money.
Yeah.
I'm like scraping around again, and I'm just sick to death of scraping around. So just walked into the local strip club and just blagged it to the guy who owned it, saying, I've worked Spearmint Rhinos, and I'm fine. And he said, oh, great, can you jump up on show me? And I was awful. I wish I had it on video just so that he could show me back. Like, literally, I must have been, and he knew straight away. As soon as I got up, he was like, you've never have worked at Spearmint Rhinos, have you? And I was like, no, but I really want to. And he was like, it's fine, you start tomorrow. The girls will show you what to do. And I turned up, and the girls were amazing, and they just rigged me out in costumes and taught me the ropes. And you know what? There is no better women on this earth than strippers. They are the best women on the earth.
Like when you told me that you'd gone off and become a stripper, I wasn't in the least bit surprised. Like, it wasn't something that I thought, oh wow, I never saw you doing that. Like, you know what I mean? I thought, yeah, I can see that. I can see that how you would like fit in with that and be like confident enough to do that and be all right.
I did it though. I was thinking I always remember thinking, if only I'd known about this on the Cypher days, I could have made so much more money.
Yeah, maybe I could have had a shot as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, why not?
That became a career, isn't it?
A career. So I did it out there, and then I come back, and then I come to Skeggy.
Was the money good?
From Tenerife. The money was good. The money was really good. The money was brilliant in Skegness.
Yeah.
When I come back, the money was okay in Tenerife, but it was better here. And then I did it here for about 8 months, I suppose, and then I moved to rugby and was managing the club in rugby for a bit.
Oh yeah, you told me a story that you went in and had a look around.
Yeah, I had to go in and have a look around. Yeah,
and just said to the manager, all your girls are ugly and there's people in the toilet sniffing cocaine blatantly. Is that what happened?
Yeah, that was it. And then he made me, it's called the house mother. He made me the house mother. So I like literally sacked all the girls apart from about 2. Yeah.
The house mother. That sounds very like pimpish. That, you're the house mother.
You're basically another bouncer, but for the girls. So you keep the girls in line because some of them girls get a bit wild. So you need to be quite forceful and be able to keep the girls in line, which I did very easily.
So yeah, so you were good at that then, yeah? Good
I
at
was
being a
really
house.
good at that. I excelled in it. And then you get a cut as well of the money they
Right.
make, which is nice. Yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
Danced in
All right.
Birmingham, danced all around Coventry, and then
Yeah.
met someone, got married in Coventry.
Were you already married when I? Because so that takes you. I joined the navy, so like that's we've just killed off what? So I didn't see you from probably about 18, 19 maybe,
Yeah, yeah,
18. So I hadn't seen you from 18. So that's let's work this out. That's probably 14 years, and then all of a sudden I I was in my first flat from the navy, so I can't have been in for very long. Do you know what I mean? I only been in for a little bit. In fact, I think I just got that flat. I'm pretty sure I was sitting in an empty flat. And I don't like one. I heard that you died, right?
Oh, who said that?
Oh, I've forgotten. I heard that you died on a gypsy caravan site. I'm sure someone says you've been set fire to or something mad like that as well.
Wow.
I remember being quite sad about it. Like, do you know what I mean?
Oh,
And then, yeah, no, I found out you hadn't died. Do you know what I mean? So I knew you were alive, but I didn't know
yay.
anything. Yeah, I didn't know where you were or anything. I think I'd maybe looked you on Facebook, but I hadn't found you. And then all of a sudden, yeah, I remember seeing a Facebook request from you and thinking, oh,
No,
how nice.
no.
And then, yeah,
I remember seeing you on the Facebook and I'm like, oh my God, that's Ricky. Yeah, and
yeah,
yeah, so I was with my now ex-husband then. And I remember telling him about you and he was really, really like worried about meeting, not worried about meeting you, but he was like, you know what men are like, they're like, don't want to meet anyone from your past. And he was like, oh, I don't know who this Ricky is. But then you turned up and within 5 minutes you were like friends.
we got on. Yeah, no, I know that you aren't together anymore, but we got on really well to the point where actually, yeah, I went on. Was it his stag? I went on his stag,
His
didn't I?
stag,
Before we
yeah,
got
yeah.
married. So you weren't married then. You weren't married when I met
No,
you.
no, yeah,
And
yeah.
then yeah, but you know, I mean, we got on well enough for him to invite me on his stag. And I went to Hamburg for 3 days. That was one day too many. That was. I remember. Do you know what? Because I remember. You know, I was. I think I was. I'm a bit older because I think you were a bit older than
Yeah.
your ex as
Yeah, I
well.
was, yeah.
So
Yeah,
I
a bit.
think I was a bit older than him and his friends, but I was young enough to party. Do you know what I mean? But his dad's mate went out there, and they stayed in a separate hotel, and they went home after 2 days. And I
Yeah,
remember when they were going home, I remember thinking, I'm supposed to be with you lot.
yeah,
Like
that's
that
my age bracket.
that's the age bracket I'm in. This is one night too many. And I remember the lads when I woke up on the third morning, they didn't think that I was going to be able to do. And I was saying I might just be staying in this room all day today because I was really ill. And I
Yeah.
pulled it out the bag. That was in my drinking days, and I pulled it out the bag. And I was there on the night time on a table, using it large. And I remember they were like, "We're quite impressed with the fact that you've made it." And then I had to fly back and go and join a new ship, and it was a nightmare. It was awful, absolutely horrendous. But
I
yeah,
can just
so
remember seeing all your faces on that date that you were coming back, and you all looked so rough. It was
I was
just yeah.
broken. Yeah, I was broken. Yeah, but yeah, so that was when I sort of got in touch with you again. So that's nice. And then from there, there's been a few moments of drama, but
Yeah.
you ended up teaching.
I did well, yeah. So my son who I adopted,
Yeah.
has learning difficulties. So I needed to. I was, you know how it is. You
Let's
kind
just
of
mention, actually, go back there. Let's just mention the fact that you adopted someone. Do you know what I mean? You've adopted a son, like, you know, so that's a big thing. That's like,
huge.
that's not like a little decision.
Yeah, you know,
But
my son is
how,
adopted.
how did that come about?
So I had difficulties. Kind of always
Conceiving.
knew. Yeah, I all kind of always knew. Do you know? Do you know what though? Even my mum says when I was really little, I always said I was going to adopt, and I think a bit of your brain always just knows. Do you know what I
What,
mean?
that
It's
you're going
weird.
to adopt? Or that,
Yeah.
was there any particular reason why you couldn't conceive naturally?
Um. Yeah. There was a few things. There was a few reasons why.
We won't get into it then.
No, we won't get into that. We won't get into that. I don't know if I could deal with that.
No, that's too, I don't want to know about
That's deep. That's too deep. So
that.
they asked me if they offered me IVF, and I said, "Oh, I had this test done that tells you the quality of your eggs, and my eggs were so low, but then the quality was so low, but they then offered me this IVF, and I was like, Do you know what? I'm working as a hairdresser. You meet a lot of people, and I've met so many women that have just torn themselves up with the whole IVF thing, and my chances were really low. So I just thought, do you know what? I'm not going to put myself through that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying no. So I was like, no, do you know what? I'm not going to do IVF. Don't want to do it. Chances are really low anyway. Made that decision right away from the off that, we'll adopt. And we did.
How easy was that?
No, it's not easy. No, that's not easy.
No.
That's not easy at all. I mean, they vet you really badly, and not badly, but they vet you a lot. And of course, with my background and everything, I was like, oh God, I'm never going to be able to do this. But luckily, I never got in massive trouble. I was naughty, but it was just a caution here and there for me. I never got in big trouble. So, I pass all that bit. They look into they credit check you. They look into previous relationships. They look at all these things they go through. And I suppose they're counselling. They're almost like counselling you to see how you are. But it took us a year before we even got approved.
Right.
And then they have to start the matching process, which feels like forever. But I think all in all, we was about a year and 8 months before we got matched.
Right. Okay.
From start to finish, which apparently is quite quick.
Okay. And then you got Jamie.
Yeah.
As a baby.
He was 13 months when he come to live with us.
Yeah.
13, 14 months. Yeah, coming up for 14 months when he come to live with us. Yeah. So he has learning difficulties, and he was really struggling to get the help from him in the school. And I thought, like everything, I'm very good at adapting to situations. And I think it's not ever what you know, it's who you know. So I thought, in my moment of wisdom, it's going to be easier to fight from the inside to get him the help. So I need to get a job in the school. So the first job that came up was for a TA. His school was a through school. So I actually went in as a TA in secondary and worked with the SEN. And so she was the SEN for the little school as well. So she helped me with Jamie, managed to get him all the help he needed. And then I was there, and then another job come up to be the cover teacher. So I went for it, and to my amazement, I got it. So I was cover teacher, helping the kids out and that. It was great.
Were you Miss Brown?
I was Miss Brown. Yeah.
Miss Brown.
Miss Brown.
I love it. That's quality.
The kids love me.
Yeah. And then is that what you're doing now?
Well, no, because I've had to move at the moment. So I'm kind of officially, because it's summer holidays, I'm still there.
Right, okay.
So I've handed in my notice, but officially I end when the summer holidays end. I finish. And then I'll be looking for something else.
You know what? I think that's one thing, like what I was saying, where when I was being asked about it the other day, as though it was a negative, I think it's like a superpower, the fact that just if it's time to move, time to move.
Yeah. You know what I mean? So you get one life, don't you?
Yeah, and I'm not emotionally tied to any place to the point. I say that we're desperate to go back to Cornwall because I loved Cornwall. Like, do you know what I mean? And I think that might be it. I think we'll go back to Cornwall. But again, we're at the stage now, and it's real. We're like, listen, when I'm out with horses, we're living on a bus. Like, we're not doing the whole fucking mortgage, like tied down bills and stuff. We're planning to live on a converted bus at the arse end of Cornwall, away from all you fucking cunts.
I mean, I love it. I love it. I do love the idea.
Yeah, that's our goal. Like, but again, I think that's realistic for us because of our background. Like, do you know what I mean? The fact that we're non-conventional and not tied to anywhere, and you hear some people live and die in the same town,
doing the same job. Yeah, I know. I'm going to change jobs now. I'm going to be an estate agent now.
Oh, right, okay.
Or a travel.
My friend is an estate agent. He trained up while we was in the Navy. He trained himself up to be an estate agent, and that's what he left to do. And he did that from scratch with so he knows all the courses and everything. So I can put you in touch with.
Yeah, that would be great.
Because that's what he did while we was on ship. he did all the courses to become a estate agent, and then, you know, just went off and did it. So I'll put you in touch with GAC to be able to give you some advice.
Yeah, I'm up for that. Yeah.
And you'll be an estate agent in Skeggy. I've changed. I'm in the army now, which is weird.
It's mad you've gone back.
So honestly, I had 20 months out. Well, you know, things didn't work out in that charity sector thing that I was doing. But I'm still in it. I get a shop. This probably will be cut out. I get my shop next week, for myself, my own.
Brilliant.
For my own registered community interest company. It's bizarre, man, honestly, because I just, like, where we're at in life now, like it's one of them. I got the shot and I just lagged it. Like, in my mind, I've just lagged this shot because I emailed, like, the travel company, because it's in a bus concourse, like a brand new bus concourse. Shop's never been used, next door to a Greg, right? And I knew that there was a bit of antisocial behaviour, and I just put it on them. I just emailed them and said, give me that shop and I'll sort that out for you. And then they was like, all right, we'd like to talk to you. And when they spoke to me, I just convinced them to give me a shop. And I thought, why weren't we doing this when we were, like,
I know,
like, younger?
Like, be that young again and know what you know now.
Oh, it'd be mental, wouldn't it? It'd be mental.
Yeah.
Like, I'd walk into Cypher and be like, nope.
No. I'd get on a plane. I would get on a plane. I would use that gyro money to get on a plane, because flights were well cheap back then. Get on a plane, and I would have gone out to Spain or Ibiza and just repped.
Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't have had that. I wasn't presentable enough to do things like that.
None of them out there were, to be fair.
Yeah, it'd be a lot different, isn't it? It'd be a lot different.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you got to sleep rough, do it on the beach in a hot country.
Yeah, I'd head down to Cornwall or something. Do you know what I mean? Be like, I'm not sleeping rough up there. I wouldn't live in a hostel. If I was homeless again,
Slough.
I've said this numerous times. Like, if I was homeless again, I wouldn't live in a hostel ever.
No.
Ever. I'd go sleep rough.
You'd rather sleep rough than be in a hostel.
Yeah, I've met a few people that do that. I've met a few people that sleep rough, and then the council say, well, they're not accessing our services, so we're not going to help them because they're refusing help. But then when you speak to them, they're like, their services are so-and-so hostel, and I'm like, yeah, I don't blame you for not living there.
Yeah,
that place is a shithole. Do you know what I mean? It's full of room junkies that are going to be trying to tax everybody. I know for a fact if I moved into a hostel now, it'd be exactly the same as back then, and I just start fighting straight away. I know, like, it's just, I wouldn't be able to help myself because, you know, I've got a very punchable face, I think. Do you know what I mean?
Apparently. I've
always attracted, even back then, I've always attracted trouble. Do you know what I mean? It comes to me naturally. Not so much now. We're at the age where people, I don't know, people just seem to leave me alone now. But back then I couldn't stay out of trouble. Do you know what I mean? People used to just start on me for no reason. Like, do you know what I mean? So,
literally just walking down the road.
Yeah, do you remember? We'd be walking along the road and all of a sudden someone would be starting a fight with us. Like, we're like,
I know. What?
But anyway, so you're in a good place now.
Yeah.
Skeggy. You think you're settling Skeggy?
I think I want to. That's what I want to buy a house here.
Yeah.
That's why I want to be an estate agent. See, inside and I want to settle because I don't want to move my son again. I feel like this displacement isn't good for him all the time.
Yeah.
Because of, from coming from a care background, and I just want him to have somewhere. Like, I'm not going to be around forever, and I just want him to have somewhere that's his.
We're middle-aged.
Don't say that.
We are, man. We are middle-aged people. We are middle-aged people. Fucking mental.
I know, it's bad, isn't it?
And that Cypher thing, man, that feels like, it wasn't yesterday, but that could easily be 10 years ago. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. It feels like, in one way, it feels like another lifetime ago, but at the same time, it feels like 5 minutes ago.
When I was there, right, I haven't, like, when I was looking at that building, it didn't evoke, like, sad memories. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's a big part, that place is a big part of my life, of, like, who I am as a human being. A lot of my personality was shaped by that crazy fucking music. I learned a lot about myself. You know what I mean?
I think it definitely made us resilient. I'm definitely one of the most resilient people I've ever met. Like,
I'm up and down. I think since I've stopped drinking, like the drinking took its toll with me, and I wasn't very resilient at that point. Runji will tell you. So obviously, you and my wife get on. But she'll tell you.
I love her.
You know, I was, there were points where I was right flake. Do you know what I mean? But I'd lost the resilience that I did have for a long time through being young. And as soon as I've stopped drinking, like I'm sort of back in the groove. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like last year and a bit's been really horrible, and obviously, like I'm suing people. Like, I'm like full blown fighting. Well, I'm full Karen mode at the moment.
You are like a dog with a bone.
Honestly, like I am. Like people are finding out now, though. They're like, oh, he doesn't let things go, does he?
No.
No. And like these people that I'm suing have been trying to scare me off with their, legal letters and blah blah. And this is where I'm really pleased. This comes from when we were younger, because I was looking at these letters and I was looking at how official it all sounded and thinking, I'm way out of my depth here. What I should do is click that discontinue button and just forget about all this. And literally, without thinking, I just went, fuck it. Let's go.
Send.
You know what I mean? Let's go. What's the worst that's going to happen?
I love that.
You know what I mean? And I just, there was literally a point where I even sort of said to myself, just remember who you are. Do you know what I mean? Remember what it is that you're all about. And I was like, let's go. We're in. I'll work for finally doing this.
That's okay.
Been on your case for ages.
It wasn't as scary as I thought.
Nah. And I think you were saying that you were going to do it. You were only going to do it when I was famous. That's what you said to me.
You're famous now.
Now
BBC
that I've
Three,
got
BBC 4,
Radio 4 documentary coming out.
Oh, you didn't mention that?
Have I not mentioned that?
No, you didn't mention
that. Have I ever mentioned that I was on Britain's Biggest Warship season 1, episode 2?
You just a few hundred times. I have it.
Right.
I have it on my Skybox.
Yeah, no, listen, I've been on it for ages to do this. Genuinely though, because I did want to highlight that it's different for females. Do you know what I mean? Like it's hard, but it's hard in a different way. Like this whole sort of have women got it harder, have men got it harder. I think it's equally as hard. It's just different for each of us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was really keen to get someone on, and obviously you were the obvious choice because we used to steal bread together, Heidi. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.
See you later. Bye.